there's also another development that has less to do with party and more to do with sort of, I guess, within the center-left coalition. And a guy who I have, read considerably, I think, over the years, not necessarily fully aligned with his politics, but certainly close enough, and was someone who had sort of an expertise and access to established parts of the party. He was I think it was a deputy secretary of Treasury under the Clinton administration. And Bob Rubin. And he came out with an op-ed this week and a subsequent interview where he basically said, I am a member of the so-called neoliberal wing of the Democratic Party. He's self-described in this way. And he said, look, our project on a political level was a total failure. And regardless of our misgivings about some of the policy prescriptions of people to the left of us, they are our only option. We must not just make a coalition with them, but also basically, and maybe this is a little bit of an exaggeration, bend the knee to the left. And it was a fascinating turn of events because you and I have witnessed the absolute opposite in the context of the Democratic Party over the past 15 years. And it's fascinating to see what's happening right now.
Well, it is. And, I when I read the piece that he wrote, and I've known him for a while, too, as a, someone that I read and that I've sort of had some communication with over the years. And he is he's a perfect example of what you might have called the Democratic establishment from, say, the 90s on. And good guy. I think he's got, all progressive instincts. He's, definitely somebody that I agreed with most of the time. He wasn't somebody that he wasn't like Joe Lieberman or something, he
right.
was, like a regular mainstream Democrat. But what he said was really important because of that, because he's been so much a part of that establishment, which is, he admitted that what they had tried to do hadn't worked. And on a political level, I think he really nailed exactly what that was. That he had assumed, they had gone on the assumption that they were going to find people on the right, sensible, pragmatic people that they could work with around the center to try and come up with, these practical, pragmatic compromises that would move the ball in a progressive direction. And, that had been look, Barack Obama, he absolutely ran on that. Bill Clinton, of course, did that. He was, the era of big government's over, that was the Democratic approach for 25 years. They had made that decision that they were going to use, and it spilled over into policy as well. Well, we're going to use market forces to achieve progressive goals. We're not going to do big government programs. We'll do these private-public partnerships. They had all these. That's the neoliberal, the center, the fundamental of the neoliberal philosophy in America. It's not the same in other countries, but in America, that's what it was. And he comes right out and says, look, it didn't work. And politically it didn't work because the other side has just not ever operated in good faith. And we have to accept that and understand that.
Yeah, he had, particularly, I think there was one interview he did with Vox where he said, look, Obama came in with Mitt Romney's healthcare plan, with John McCain's I can't remember one of John McCain's plans, and with George Herbert Walker Bush's foreign policy. And when they pursued these things, those three guys in particular basically never showed up to defend those policies at all.
Exactly.
And so the way he phrases it, I found it fascinating. He said, even if we find that the policy prescriptions of those to the left of us are not only not as desirable, but not as effective, it is still far better than what we will get to the right of us. Like he's basically saying, we're at the edge of a cliff as the sort of neoliberals, market-driven Democrats. We're at the edge of the cliff. And we can either take one step to the left or two steps to the left or three steps to the left and compromise in that way, or we can take one step to the right and fall off a cliff. Right. And so it's fascinating to see that change because it's so dramatically different from when you and I first started talking, over a decade ago.
And can we just say that we were talking about this very thing from the beginning? I mean, this was not something that came, throughout the period, I know I've been screaming into the void that, this idea, in fact, when Obama came in and he tried to do his grand bargain, I was just screaming to high heavens. I'm going, don't you see that this is, that you are not going to take, two steps forward, one step back. You're going to take one step forward, two steps back. You don't understand how these people operate. And, it's taken a while, but it appears that they have, at least some have recognized that that particular thing, that philosophy is just, it's no longer operative and hasn't been for many, many years.
I agree with that. And I want to take a break. And when we come back, I want to talk about the implications of that because it means a lot, particularly coming at the beginning of the Democratic primary, which is going to be about as robust of a primary as I think you and I have seen in
ever.
Ever. And also, too, I want to just address one other aspect of this, which is that the failure of these so-called neoliberal policies, these sort of like third way triangulation, market-based solutions, is not just been political, but it's also been a failure in terms of economics.
Right.
So they take a quick break. We'll be right back with more. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio. I'm talking to the great Heather Parton.